Currently doing both oral and written translation. Oral translation in the Shedra and also for other teachings, and written translation for 84,000 and also for Laszlo Tsawa translations.
The main way that I'm using my degree is through translation practice. So translating for 84,000, for kind of personal projects, as well as a number of other different forms of translation.
When I started the course, I mostly wanted to be able to read texts in Tibetan fluently and understand them without a translator. And now I still feel that's my goal, but I'm also happy that I can produce English translations of many different types of texts.
Well, I was interested in translating when I entered the program, and so that's basically what I'm doing now. 84,000 I was hoping to join, and then now I'm also directing Laszlo Tsawa translations, which wasn't really planned, but it all comes from there.
My main goal in joining the Masters in Translation was to take my translation skills to the next level, meaning to go kind of beyond what we call the Dharma-centered translation style, to really move into understanding how to work with the text, how to read text in a philological manner, how to critically edit the text and so forth. And so now I'm able to, the way I engage with the text is in a completely different way.
In the future, I would like to translate Tibetan poetry and continue to work on honing my skills and reflect the beautiful Tibetan poetry into English.
Well, for now, I'd just like to continue doing the same. I still have a lot to learn, so I just want to continue translating and learning through the process.
Really, in the future, I'd like to continue exactly what I'm doing now. So continue translating texts, continue reading, and continue practicing.
The course exceeded my expectations, actually. We learned not just translation methods and Tibetan practice, but also bigger picture ideas about translation theory and how translation affects the world, and how the translation of Tibetan texts into English is a really important project that has much bigger implications than I thought at first.
Yes, I learned a lot. Knowledge of written Tibetan improved, and also translation techniques. So I think I achieved what I expected.
Yes, I would say that we all got out of the course what we expected and more.
Before beginning the MA TTIP, I did one summer program and one full year of study, and then another summer program.
So I studied both inside and outside the Shedra for a year, but really focusing basically only on Tibetan. And so I did courses at the Shedra and also had everyday private classes of colloquial Tibetan and classical Tibetan. So that's how I prepared.
Yes, it's true that the MA requires a very high level of reading comprehension in Tibetan. For instance, we were assigned to read an entire book in Tibetan and then kind of discuss it in class. So I think the most important thing for students is just to read as much as possible across different genres, different time periods. Read whatever you're interested in, but whatever you do, just read as much as you can.
I was motivated by my interest in Tibetan Buddhism, and I wanted to be able to read texts on my own and be able to pick up any text from 1,000 years ago or 50 years ago and be able to read it fluently. So that goal kept me going through the hard preparation.
Well, originally I was just interested in the Dharma, but then in order to better understand the Dharma, I saw that knowing the language was also very useful, and I became quite fascinated by Tibetan, so it wasn't so hard to be dedicated to it.
I agree that it is a lot of work, but maybe I wouldn't say it's a lot of hard work, because when you really enjoy and love Tibetan and love translation and love what you're doing, then there's sort of a joyful diligence that you give rise to, and no matter how much work there is, you're able to do it without feeling like it's a lot of hard work.
Living in Nepal is already quite cheap compared to the US, but the Yeshe Foundation did help fund my studies, and that was great.
I had the Yeshe Foundation scholarship for the entire duration of my MA, so that paid for half of my tuition, which made a big difference. Helped me a lot.
The Yeshe Foundation has been very generous in supporting our students, and I think really without their financial sponsorship, it would be difficult for a lot of us to continue the whole way through the Masters.
I think living in Nepal is one of the advantages of being here. I don't really think about the difficulties. I love living here, and as far as my studies, I think it's extremely helpful to be living amongst native Tibetan speakers. I have access to many extremely learned Khenpos and fluent Tibetan speakers. I was able to go to Swayambhu to meet with one particular Khenpo. I met with Khenpos here at Rangjung Yeshe. And the language teachers here are also extremely learned and helpful for any translation project.
Well, I mean, here it's not only, first the learning environment, of course, is very helpful because of the Tibetan community and just sharing this interest with many people, but also the vibrant Dharma activity is also very inspiring, and being able to go to pujas and work with monks also, and get help from knowledgeable monks and others for translations. That's definitely been very helpful.
It's true that living in Nepal can be difficult at times with the kind of lack of certain facilities and resources, but at the same time it's a wonderful environment to really work with the texts. It's you really feel like you're in the natural environment, the native setting for the production of these texts. So I really feel like that only adds to the studies.
I definitely recommend this course for anyone interested in Tibetan Buddhism, and specifically with reading Tibetan texts. Especially if you want to be a translator, but even if you just want to be a fluent reader, this course is helpful. I can't speak of it highly enough. I think it was unique in the world and a very thorough preparation to be a written Tibetan textual translator.
Yeah, I think it's very good to do this program because translation is not only about knowing the Tibetan language, but it's also about knowing, about thinking about translation, and so like learning about the methodology and learning the theory and which resources to use and all that. So I think it's very useful if you actually want to do good translations.
Yeah, I think anyone who's interested in working with Tibetan texts and translating them would do very well to join this course. I think there's no other course like this really anywhere in the world.
I guess there's not that many opportunities in the world to be able to support yourself simply by being an academic. Unless you go on to get a PhD and are lucky enough to get a good job at a university. There's not too many opportunities where you can support yourself simply by having a passion project, I guess. Translation is kind of one of those opportunities where you can support yourself and you can go really deep into a text that you care about. So I guess it's a pretty unique opportunity.
Yeah, it's before one actually feels confident about one's work. I think it takes quite a lot of time. I think really it's a long learning process. So it's not something that you can just learn in the time of one program. It's something that you need to develop over years. And the more you practice translation, the more you learn about it, about different genres of text and so on. So yeah, I think it's very important for me to continue right now, just even to get to a point where I'm more confident with all sorts of texts.
For me, I try to read every day, and whether it's your career choice or whether it's just something you kind of pursue for yourself, I think the MA will help you on either way. Some people, they want to translate 8 hours a day and make a career out of it. Some people want to do it part-time, still have a day job, and other people, they just want to do it for themselves. And so I think whatever your kind of aim is, the MA TTIP is going to be extremely beneficial.